There's a real gem in Reading, and it sits on a knoll on Middlesex Avenue. The yellow brick building was built as a schoolhouse in 1896 and now is the home of the Reading Public Library. The building was designed by local architect Horace Wadlin and was considered one of his finest examples of architectural design for a public building in Reading.
I think Horace Wadlin would be very pleased to see the adaptive use of this building as a public library after he had designed it as a school. He was, of course, both a school committee person and a library trustee.
The two-story building contained 13 classrooms, a basement playroom, and a second-floor auditorium lunchroom. A fire in 1957 damaged the structure, but an extensive restoration allowed the school to reopen. With declining enrollment, the Highland School was closed in 1981. At that time, the Reading Public Library was located in a building adjacent to Town Hall on Lowell Street. The library had moved into that building in 1918 with some 12,000 books. The children's room and adult reading room were on the main floor, and a small lecture hall was downstairs. Eventually, the lecture hall was converted to the children's room. By the 1940s, there were reports of overcrowded conditions, and a 1950 edition provided much-needed space. The collection had grown to 29,000 volumes. With the increasing need for additional space, the library had outgrown its Lowell Street building. The availability of the former Highland School was a suitable location for the expansion, and it provided convenient access near the center of town. And so the renovation began with a very modest budget of less than $1 million. The project did not initially provide for air conditioning, nor did it include reinforcement between floors to accommodate the weight of tall book stacks. It was, however, a major improvement over the Lowell Street building. Since 1984, needs of the facility have continued to increase. There have been calls for many items that were not a major concern or did not exist in 1984. Audiobooks, CDs, DVDs, video games, eBooks, and the growing demand for the use of computers.
The space in the library is more than just books in circulation. People and residents come to the library for many reasons, and all of these activities are looking for specialized space. Computer access, tutoring, reading quietly, and then of course larger meeting halls and meeting rooms for public events. There are so many reasons why people want to come to the library physically. It's not just about books, it's about meeting people and gaining knowledge and sharing things. Students come, of course, for homework. There's a variety of reasons why people come physically to the library, and the current building, of course, can't accommodate all of those space needs.
Today, there are many more requests for interlibrary loan services.
The Reading Public Library has one of the highest delivery of items through interlibrary loan in the state. We have delivery Monday through Friday of 8 to 12 bins a day, and we sort the bins here. We have 6 across here, and any left over on here. When they're emptied, they go on the cart right here, and then eventually go out to the circ desk for our holds. We shelve the interlibrary loan items on 3 different shelves. They start here, they continue here, and they end here. These items have just come in today, and so we need to get these items on our already packed shelves here. We are also receiving our book drop, which we empty 4 times a day, and that is located right here. So we're moving around a really tight area here.
The book collection has grown substantially. Today, the collection contains more than 130,000. Circulation last year was more than 500,000. Almost double the circulation of 1984. The library staff has done an exceptional job of attempting to operate within the confines of the current facility.
So this is our workroom, And the main issues we have here have to do with heating and cooling. We have an old HVAC system, and there's one vent in one part of this large room, and it's not adequate to heat or cool the entire space. It tends to be very hot in the winter and cold in the summer. And the windows on a cold, windy day let in a lot of air, so much so that we pull down the shades and we put up this shawl here to try to block the cold air. And when we have the shades down on a windy day, the shades will actually blow in and out with the wind.
But there are issues generated by the changing nature of library functions and the impact of computerization of both library service and staff workspace requirements.
These shelves contain DVDs and CDs that are waiting to be processed. We don't really have any place else to put them. There's kind of a backlog. And there's carts over there, all over the office really, where all the backlog is. This piece of plastic is here because it often floods, and we don't want the water pouring into our expensive printer. The water also seeps under this bookshelf here under Allison's feet, and she often has to pull up her plastic mat and go sit elsewhere until she's dried out over there.
Seeing now are some visible evidence of the leaks in the ceiling in the attic. We have some older stains and now some newer stains from our most recent storm, both of which the custodians try to have buckets up there to prevent staining of ceiling or any of the children's materials. It gets worse. Here you're seeing evidence of the leaks from the attic down through the children's ceiling, and you can see the plaster is actually loosening here, and the drippage that goes down the wall, in the wall, and potentially on the children's books. Custodians come in here whenever there's a slow melt or a heavy rain and cover our bookcases with tarp to prevent water damage to our books. This is a storage closet that the public does not always see, but you can tell here how the water is seeping down through the roof, through the attic flooring into this storage closet. It's affecting not only the ceiling and the walls, but potentially the books that are stored down below. You can see a tarp here in the ready in case it starts leaking.
We're in the turret off the teen area, and this is a fire exit. This is an emergency exit. And the water damage, the rain damage and melting snow has been so bad in the turret areas that it has actually come through 2 floors, through the attic, through the children's room, and right down here to above this exit doorway. We're now on the main floor, and the lintel there is actually bowing and sagging.
The area devoted to teens is quite limiting. There is demand for additional space for tutoring and quiet stalls. Wiring is not sufficient for today's needs.
These are the servers that run all the computers in the library, and our network and everything. This box should be in its own room, but we don't have any space for it. It could be in a closet, but it needs to be well ventilated, and it can't be cooped up in a small space. You can see this huge tangle of wires back here. We have to be very careful not to trip on these and completely wipe out the entire library's network. Coincidentally, here's the wet vac, which we had to use yesterday when we had a big flood.
Most of the 1896 windows have never been replaced.
This pretty little window has had a hole in it forever and has plastic pushed up against it on the inside to keep the elements out and the birds and so on. And on the second floor here, there are, just within view, 4 plastic panes where windows have been broken over the years. And all of the windows are very fragile. There's very little glazing left, and the glass is just, in some instances, perched against the bottom of the frames.
The library trustees have been aware of these and other deficiencies for many years, but have been restricted by limited resources.
So we're here and we're looking at some of the problems of this wonderful old building, and one of the things that we've been worrying about is this egg and dart molding, this course of granite, and you can see that's probably one of the biggest holes. It's got birds sometimes. Yeah, and obviously we've lost a good chunk. There have been some pieces that have been replaced, but if you look a little bit above it, you can also see that the pointing on the bricks is giving way, and there's a lot of damage on this corner. This is the north side. They've replaced some of our aging downspouts, and there are still a lot of places where there are leaks. The gutters have become almost ineffective. A lot of times if I come out and it's raining hard, the water's just going right over them or through them or behind them because they're just worn out. There are holes in them, and they do need to be either fixed or replaced. And the conditions on this side are causing a lot of dampness in the basement. We don't know where that water is going through. We know it's going in, and we know that sometimes we have leaks through the walls, and other times there's just that dampness that you're getting where you're getting mildew on the basement wall. This area was painted within about the past 5 years, and very quickly thereafter we saw that water was running down from the ceiling, from the roof, all along the wall, and just doing a fair amount of damage to that. The problem is that there's also a lot of dampness in the room inside, which is the local history room, and that's where our really our precious local materials are, all the manuscripts that don't exist anywhere else, and you really want to have good climate conditions in there, and the source of the water problem here has not been identified. When we were studying the building the first time about 5 years ago, that the ramp is not actually code compliant, that it's too steep and it's too long. And we did look at, was it possible to remedy that without a major construction project, and there is really no way to fix that the way things currently are and where the entrance is. This is a very busy spot, and it's the main driveway into the parking lot. It's the place where people like to pull in to pick people up who might be waiting for rides, and it's also the only possible spot to access the book drops. And the book drops have to be there because they have to be emptied on wheels. So it turns out to be a kind of a hazardous corner. And we would really like to be locating the ramp where it wasn't so in the midst of the all the traffic flow.
In May of 2008, the trustees engaged the services of a firm to assess existing building conditions. The firm provided a lengthy list of major issues. Following a town-wide survey, the trustees looked at all potential options to improve conditions. 1. Do nothing. To do nothing is not an option.
So we looked at basically continuing what we've been doing for the last 25 years, which is to maintain the building as needed, but that essentially achieves nothing other than spending money just to maintain a building that's gradually deteriorating. Given the age of the building, we think it's time clearly to do something, both the external envelope and inside.
2. Minor renovation.
So the renovation we considered was essentially a building envelope upgrade as well as some modest changes inside. This, to us, had a couple of infirmities. One, it would do nothing to utilize the space inside any differently. In addition, it wouldn't allow us to achieve the library program that the community is asking for. And further, by spending millions of dollars and opening up the building to renovations, you're now probably going to have to upgrade the building to modern codes. Currently, it's grandfathered.
3, major rehabilitation.
If you were to take the renovation and add, turn that into a major rehabilitation, which is the next option we considered, that does achieve more. In addition to fixing the building envelope, you do start to redesign the inside. You can fix some of the load limits and the floors. So that was starting to have some merit. However, based on the program and the community needs and the space demands, that still wouldn't achieve the optimum space utilization inside the building. In addition, when we looked at the cost back then and today, it seems comparable to some of the other options. It's quite expensive to rehabilitate an old building, and many of the project costs would be comparable to any of the significant projects under consideration.
4, new building on new site.
Everyone is interested in the fresh start option, and of course we considered that. However, there are some challenges taking the entire library and putting it to a new site in Reading. First, it was clear then, and it's still clear now, that would by far be the most expensive option from what we understand. In addition, of course, in Reading, there's a difficulty of finding an appropriate site and then putting up the building on that site. In addition, we lose the use of the current building, which was a very clear message from the community that they love this building and they love the library in it. A new building would not achieve any of that.
5, expansion and rehabilitation.
By far the most popular choice was to rehabilitate the existing building and add a small addition, which would then enable us to achieve all of our objectives, which would be to redesign the space within the existing building and make use of that small extra space to take advantage of some heavy loads and some public access. And of course, we modernize the building and have the opportunity to update all the technology, make it green and all this. In addition, we would stay in the current building, which again is what the community really wants and views as its library. And in our view, it was the appropriate cost.
The trustees proceeded with the most logical option, a major rehabilitation, which would include necessary repairs to the exterior and interior, as well as improvements to make the library more efficient. At the same time, a state grant program was being offered to the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners for new construction or additions to public libraries.
So as we evaluated our options, along comes the Massachusetts Library Program, construction program, offering grants to eligible projects. Now, these grants are only available for projects that make significant improvements to libraries. From our list, of course, that would only apply to the current proposal, the addition and rehab, or a new building. So that certainly supports one of these two projects because there's state money available. So Reading applied and was actually granted $5.1 million towards this project. And that certainly tipped the scales towards the rehabilitation and addition. Now, please bear in mind that that $5.1 million is only available if the town of Reading proceeds with the proposed project, because that was part of the application. If we decline to do this project, of course the state will not give us the money, so there's no second chance on that money. And so with all of that, with the $5 million on the table, in our view, that was the clincher to proceed with this current proposal.
With the town meeting approval in spring of 2010, the trustees hired an architectural firm familiar with library needs. The firm presented a schematic design that addresses structural and infrastructural issues and limitations, necessary changes to conform to code, and the problems associated with adapting a 115-year-old facility designed as a 19th century school to the needs of a 21st century library. Let's take a look at the architect's floor plans for the interior of the building.
These are the current floor plans. They are color-coded. The orange is staff work areas. The gold is adult services and current library collections. And the red is young adult. Blue is children's. And the green is the meeting room. So what the change from the ground, on the ground floor will be that the meeting room is added and 2 conference rooms. Those will be accessible after hours and will be easily driven up to. So that's the biggest change on the ground floor. The stacks will be lightened. They won't butt up against the walls. They will be redesigned to allow better flow and also to allow more public activity down there. There are small rooms set up for tutoring that we don't currently have. Those will have glass doors and glass in their walls so that tutors and individuals can use those for quiet study and tutoring. On the main floor, we currently have a very small teen services, and it is adjacent to the large print area, which doesn't always work out very well, and it's also adjacent to newspapers and magazines. The teen spot will grow quite a bit, and that will be a teen lounge area, and we will also relocate several public computers to that area. There will also be a group study room on one wing of what is currently the local history room, and in the other side of the current local history room it will be a small reading room with the fireplace that's currently in that room. So that should be a very nice place to sit. The addition on the main floor will be heavy with stacks because the steel structure will allow us to put a lot of the collection there, and it will make it much more convenient for people than having to retrieve as many things as they currently have to from the basement. The circulation area will be relocated to the left side of the building where the automated book return will be located. On the second floor, you can see right now that the children's room is taking up the center of the current library, and on the left side is our staff areas. There's the staff workroom and the administration offices. The meeting room, because it's going to be relocated to the ground level, will allow the children's room to expand as it really needs to. And on the new plans, the children's room will be almost the entire second floor. That will allow us to replan the space so that it is age appropriate and moves across from a dedicated children's program space where stories and activities can take place to an early learning center, to a primary grades area where there will be collections and computers and seats, to elementary school age with collections, computers, and study tables, as well as some lounge chairs. So it will also allow us to relocate the children's librarians to offices to the floor where they will have glass in their walls so that they can be available for backing up. Okay. So the addition is planned to be 2 floors. It's the ground floor and the main level. On the second floor there will be what is called a green roof, and that is a roof that is actually planted for water retention and for aesthetics. It keeps the lower level warmer and cooler at appropriate times, and it will give us a space in the center to actually have outdoor programs right there at the second floor where the children are gathered on nice days.
I'm really excited about the proposed plan for the library, especially for the children's room. In our room, we're going to have so much more space. So the little children won't be in the big children's space. There'll be some great early literacy areas that we can develop. There'll be better spaces for older elementary children and a dedicated children's program room for all the story times, so we don't have to take over the conference room all the time anymore.
Well, good night, cow jumping over the moon. Good night, light in the red balloon. Good night, bears. Good night, chairs. Well, good night, kids, and good night, mittens.
The parking lot will have some trees added, and the traffic flow should be a little bit cleaned up. And then the parking is expanded to the School Street side, where it goes around the addition. And there will be handicap parking right next to the addition, which will have the meeting room at ground level. This is a current view from School Street, and right now you're looking up towards a chiller that is exactly the edge of where the addition will be, but at that level, at the main level, the addition will be glass, so you'll actually be able to see the current exterior wall, the ground wall. The second floor will not have an addition, the children's room, so that part of the building will still be very clearly visible from the street. This is the view from Middlesex Ave, the proposed addition to the library. The front of the building will be restored. It will not be changed. It will simply be cleaned up, and the problems of gutters and downspouts and granite and brick fixed. Loose masonry, the roof will be replaced. The grade will minimize the lower level of the addition from the street, and that main floor part of the addition is proposed to be in glass. Okay, this is a view from the parking lot side showing the new center entrance to the library and showing the turrets restored. They now have their hats back on the roofs, and you can see them, the entire length of them, so it will feel more like that castle on a hill that it began life as. You can also see the scale of the addition on this. It's about probably about 38%.
By a vote at the November 2010 town meeting, the trustees were authorized to apply for the General Construction Provisional Grant. Initially, the application was placed on a waiting list for 2 years, but Reading was eventually awarded the grant in October 2012, contingent upon the town securing funding for its share of the project cost by June of 2013. The grant is for $5.1 million and is designated only for the plan as submitted. The total cost of the project is $14.8 million. The state grant reduces the municipal cost to $9.7 million. A special town meeting on January 28 allowed the trustees to present funding proposals to the residents in the form of a ballot question for debt exclusion from Proposition 2.5, which means that the municipal cost of borrowing extends only to the length of the loan, perhaps 10 years. The town-wide vote will take place at the local election on April 2nd. A negative vote would mean that the town would not receive the state grant, and there is no second chance. But the necessary steps to maintain the current physical structure and the updates to conform to code and the adjustments to improve some of the efficiency of the library within the current envelope are estimated to cost approximately the same as the debt exclusion, but without the additional space and without the aid from the state grant. Without the debt exclusion, the corrective steps alone would take many, many decades to accomplish within the municipal budget. The replacement of windows, for instance, has been postponed numerous times within the town's capital plan, and that is only one part of the many areas that need attention. The proposal has received the endorsement from the Board of Selectmen, the Finance Committee, the Historical Commission, and the Library Trustees. It awaits the town-wide approval at the local election on Tuesday, April 2nd.
Reading is known to be frugal and a conservative spender, which of course we all endorse. On the other hand, Reading loves its library and is a heavy user of its library. And as we've discussed, the building is at the point where it really needs to be addressed. And after evaluating all these options and with the advent of this unique state grant, we feel it's time to make the appropriate decision which will provide us a nice library for the next 30 to 50 years.